get there. Hey, I'm eastbound, just watch old bandit run.
Where arts and culture summits the airwaves, this is the Nine Rails Arts Podcast Extract. This extract from episode 3 features an interview with Sara Meess, a project coordinator with Ogden's Business Development Department, who provides a behind-the-scenes history of how a creative district is born. Leading the interview is Todd Oberndorfer, host of the Nine Rails Arts Podcast, artist, and outreach manager and advisor for the Weber State Department of Visual Art and Design. Please enjoy this extract and do share with a friend, and leave us a 5-star rating and review on iTunes, or if you're a YouTube fan, hit that subscribe button as to never miss a future Banyan Collective podcast. This is Sara Meess on the Nine Rails Arts Podcast, Birth of a Creative District.
Well, we are live from the heart of the historic Jefferson Avenue district.
Yeah, doing a porch session on a porch in front of a beautiful house.
I feel that everybody knows where Matt lives. Like, I don't want to give away where he lives, but he's... Anyway, thank you for offering the porch. All we're missing is like lemonade and iced tea and I do declare type of thing. This is a beautiful porch. Yeah, I love it. But we've substituted that with a different beverage.
Well, Sierra, Pale Ale, and PBR.
Yes, this will be sponsored by them. So thank you very much. Yeah. And joining us today on not just any old day, this is the 125th birthday party for the Eccles Mansion, which is now the Eccles Art Center. And they're just, I say they're all set up, but it starts at 1 o'clock. It goes from 1 to 7. This will be in the past by the time this is all going on. But any voices you hear in the background, we are just off the street from the booths. There's art booths on the corner. There's going to be live music. There is plein air painting, which I believe Matt is judging right now.
Oh, so he's not home to kick us off his porch. Yeah,
exactly. But the main reason we are here today is to talk to Sara Meess, who we know very, very well, and I think collectively most of the arts community does as well. But our focus today is to get to know the Nine Rails Arts District better than you ever wanted to. We're going to give you details that you never asked for.
So, like, what is it?
I'd say that's probably a good start.
Yeah, okay.
And then I want to actually fill in the blanks even more than that. I want to go back a bit. I've been involved in some capacity for about a year and a half, maybe a little over a year and a half, but this project goes much further back than that. And so that's where I want to fill in some of those blanks.
And if we have time, and if Sarah's willing, we should ask her about her snook skills, which are amazing. Did I say it right? Yeah.
I say we start with that.
That was a really fun day up there.
It was awesome.
Powder Mountain, yeah.
It was way funner than I thought it would be.
I agree. So the snook it's like a sit ski that you can tour with, and then you build it back together again, and you sit down and ski. It's they can do it in Europe without the regulations of having to stop a ski lift.
Yes.
But when we went to Powder Mountain, they had to stop the ski. Well, Sarah picked up on it really fast. So,
as you do.
Yeah.
I think this is a good time to fully introduce, because I don't know what it is you do exactly.
Good question, Todd.
Yeah. And I don't think anybody does. And so, as far as your official title, and where you work out of and how long you've been doing that, and a little bit of a background on what you do for the city of Ogden.
Well, I work for Ogden City. I'm the Deputy Division Manager for Business Development, which is part of the city's Community and Economic Development Department.
So you are deputized.
I have been deputized. I'm still waiting for the badge.
I'm straight up getting you a badge at some point.
It better be those silver 5-star badges.
It's going to be one of those big ones.
If it's not tinfoil, I'll be disappointed. So I know you all had a chance to talk with Lori Buckley in Ogden City Arts a few weeks ago, and so Arts is another one of the divisions that's under Community and Economic Development. So we're in the same department, but different divisions. The Business Development Division is charged with supporting economic growth in Ogden.
So yours is the sexier division.
I don't know. Depends on who you ask.
Sorry, go on.
But so we focus on business recruitment, which is bringing new businesses to Ogden. We work in business. The money, yeah. Those are the big sexy deals, right?
Yeah.
Is when you recruit the new company with 800 jobs to Ogden and everybody goes and uses some big scissors at the ribbon cutting.
It's all about the big scissors.
It is all about the big
They
scissors.
store all those in the corner of your office, don't they? All the big
I
scissors.
wish.
How does you open your mail with those giant scissors?
But we also spend a lot of time on business retention and expansion. So that's actually a really important contributor to economic growth in any community, is making sure the businesses that are already here are able to grow and flourish in the community. And then we also do some work with entrepreneurship, so trying to support new and emerging companies in the community. So that's what our division does. I couldn't tell you what the day-to-day looks like because every day is so different. That's one of the best.
That's nice, yeah.
It is. It's one of the best things about the job is that we're a relatively small office, and so we get to work on just an incredible variety of projects, which keeps it interesting and challenging.
So how do you describe, we'll start with the Nine Rails Creative District as it's named now, and then we'll go back a little bit. If you're pitching the idea or describing Nine Rails, how do you describe that?
So the Nine Rails Creative District is meant to create an environment where creative activity can happen. So we're kind of trying to establish an environment that allows creative activity to happen organically and to really flourish in this area. And the way we've talked about that is by making improvements in the public realm, where public art and public arts programming can happen. So instead of having to go seek out art at a gallery or a museum, you're going to bump into it just as you go about your day-to-day, as you go about your routine.
You can't avoid it.
Yeah. It's just there.
Right.
There's no way around it. And then one of our other big goals for the project was to create a better connection between downtown and East Central. So we wanted to take some of the energy that already exists on Lower 25th Street and extend that up into the neighborhood so that it created a connection with some of the amazing things that are happening up here in East Central with the newly remodeled library, the Eccles Community Arts Center that's being celebrated today, and the Jefferson Ave Historic District.
Oh, this is a perfect day exhibiting that exactly, because the farmers market is on the Lower 25th right now, and there's a bunch of people down there, and then just a block up here is the celebration of the 125th anniversary of the Eccles. So, and this street is blocked off, and there's booths and everything. So now we've engaged two corridors.
Yeah,
and it's fantastic.
And that's exactly what we want to see. So when we started the project, we were already kind of thinking about how 25th Street east of Washington works on like celebration time. So for farmers market, you get a ton of foot traffic going up and down 25th Street. After the Ogden Twilight shows, there's a lot of people that are walking home to the neighborhood on 25th Street. And that's the type of activity we want to have there all the time. And then just the last big thing on the creative district is that we wanted to create more places where creative professionals and artists could live and work. So we already have a lot of great gallery and retail space down on 25th Street. We have some great performing art venues, from Good Company Theater to the Egyptian. And we have establishments that are doing lots of arts instruction, like the local artisan collective in the Junction. But we felt there was a need for more workspace, and also we wanted to encourage more people that are engaged in those activities to come and live in this area.
Now, when did you first get involved with this project?
It
goes back.
2014, I want to say.
Yeah? 4 years ago?
4 years ago. That seems right.
4 years? Oh, really?
Yeah.
And did someone bring this up to you? Did you come up with this? Like, where did it originate from?
Yeah, so there were a couple different things that kind of came together. One is that Jake McIntyre with Union Creative Agency, he's from Ogden. He was in graduate school up in Portland, but he was starting to think about what he wanted to do when he was done with school. And so he approached the city and the business development division with this concept of opening a makerspace here in Ogden. So if you don't know what a makerspace is, it's basically like a gym membership where you pay a monthly membership, but instead of getting access to weights, you get access to wood shop, metal shop, lots of other tools and equipment that might be prohibitive for you to get at home or in a private studio.
You've talked to Thane at some point. That is Thane's description. But
we've been preaching it for a while.
That is exactly where he got it. Yeah, but it's such a good description.
Yeah. For sure. So we started working with Jake to try to find a location for the makerspace, and he had this really cool concept where it wasn't just a shop space and it wasn't just a place where you could go and use equipment. It was also a place where the creative community would really have a chance to connect and collaborate on projects, and also a place where they could get access to resources. So whether that's access to business support services, like how do you write a business plan? What funding sources should you be going after? That kind of thing. And so we were working with him on that project, and then we were looking at some grant opportunities that could help with that. And we found out around the same time that Weber Arts Council was looking at the same grant opportunity, and they were looking at it for a resource center, basically. So they wanted to create a resource center where artists and creatives could come and get help with grant writing, business support services, all that type of thing. And we kind of looked around and said, we're all trying to do the same thing here. Let's just blend these two projects together and submit a joint grant application, which is a lot more competitive, too, if you can get different partners involved in applying for a grant project. So that turned into what we called at the time the Ogden Arts Hub. So that was kind of a combination of Union's concept for this makerspace and Weber Arts Council concept for a resource center.
And then did you have a geographic plan for where the hub was to be at that time?
We kind of knew we wanted it to be up in this neighborhood. We looked at a lot of different buildings trying to figure out what might be a good fit for it. Originally, we were looking at the old school district building, which is now part of the Imagine Jefferson project. That building was actually originally the vocational arts building for Weber College before Weber State moved up to the Harrison Boulevard campus.
It's got a good history to it. It's got a good art history to it. Yeah.
And it's always better, like reuse of old buildings is always better when you can use them for what they were originally built for. And so the fact that that space had been built out as shop space meant that it was pretty well suited to doing a makerspace type concept. But there were some constraints we hit over there, and we were still kind of generally looking between downtown and East Central, looking for a good location for the project. But at the same time, it was starting to kind of broaden out. So we started thinking about, instead of having a single building that supported the arts here in Ogden, maybe we wanted to look at a campus. And then from a campus, it turned into a corridor. And from the corridor, it became the creative district. So it's kind of just been growing outward the whole time we've been working on the project. Which is kind of a good way to put it,
because I think even though there's a little bit more sort of constraints that you've put in as far as the borders, it will continue to expand.
Exactly.
From there. So I like that it started at a space at the little seed, and it's already gotten to this point just 4 years in.
Yeah.
So is that's a good question though. Is that the intention? Is that because when I've been involved and I've been to some of the prior meetings and public notices, I guess, to see where the district will be, and I could not tell you where the district is, like from what street to what street or whatever, because it's sort of a skiwampus district or whatever. So when people ask me where it is, I don't know how to answer necessarily. But are you saying, Todd, that it's going to reach outside of that anyway, or like
to some degree? I think that, and Sarah can probably talk about this, but the way that I describe it is 24th to 26th from Washington to Jefferson, right?
That sound right?
Right. So that's kind of the intensive area that's at the heart of the creative district, and then we have a larger boundary that extends just one block further in each direction. So it's still 24th to 26th, but it reaches down to Grant and then up to Madison. And the idea was that with that larger boundary, we could do some things that would help connect to 25th Street, the Junction, and Washington Boulevard. So that's the boundary that's been designated in the master plan, which was adopted by Ogden City Council last week. Yay!
So it's official. It's adopted.
Official. Yeah.
So what does that change mean?
So I think it means that now we're all in agreement that we have a framework to move forward on this project. We all agree what the goals and objectives are for the district. The master plan calls out project priorities in a couple different areas, and so there's some general agreement about, okay, here are the projects we want to move forward with in each of 4 different categories. And here's kind of how we're going to prioritize or phase those. So that's really important in terms of going after additional grant funding or trying to match city funding sources with those projects.
So what's the next step?
The next step is to start doing stuff. So we've been planning some more.
And who leads that? Is that you?
So it's been really a joint kind of collaborative effort. We've had a great project team with folks from Union Creative Agency. Todd's been participating on behalf of Weber State. We've been working with the Ogden Downtown Alliance. O1 Arts and Scott Patria have been very involved. So we've had kind of an internal project team, and then we've had a steering committee. And that steering committee has been guiding the development of our goals for the project, and then also providing a lot of input on the actual master plan document. But we're getting ready to kind of transition that. So all of this work has been done with a grant from the National Endowment for the Arts. And that grant is only for planning purposes. So we were lucky to be able to do some pilot projects with that grant funding. But for the most part, we were doing planning and visioning. So next steps, now we have to take the master plan and actually start working on executing the projects that are prioritized in that plan.
That's when you start thinking about like kicking the little birdies out of the nest. And
Oh, snap. Yeah, it gets serious.
because we've
now.
talked about that. This is many years in the making, but now's when the fun kind of starts.
Yeah, I think so. Everybody has been the most excited about the pilot projects. The planning is super important. It's been really fun, and we've had a great involvement from the arts community on putting that together. But everybody's been so excited. Like, we had Moments Festival as part of this project back in 2017. And to actually be out on the street and being able to observe how the arts can be used to really get people out on the street, get people interacting, get people engaged with art, that was just so cool. And so hopefully we'll be seeing more of that. Same thing with the Painted Streets project. That was one of our other pilot projects. And we had, I think, over 200 volunteers that came out and sat on the hot asphalt and helped us paint these murals.
It was not a cool time of the year.
It was a tough time of year.
hot.
We were there most of the days, but it was the process that was most memorable to me and to the volunteers both. The results were fantastic, right? But it was every day. It was, working with the initial artists that laid it out in a beautiful paint by number type of thing that we could all go fill in. But I'll always remember one of the evenings we were set up painting, and it was a night that one of the Twilight concerts was going on, and people that were living in the Imagine Jefferson apartments in droves were walking by us and talking about the project and talking about the creative district on their way to a concert that was going on down at the amphitheater.
Yeah.
And it was so many things that kind of fell in place. Yeah. And it kind of chokes you up a little bit, especially the more involved you are in these projects. But more nights like that.
Yes.
Right? So a day like today where you have choices, that's first of all amazing, right? But the sheer numbers, that are starting to show up on Jefferson, and of course our farmers market, is just fantastic, but it's all right there in the hub. I just can't wait.
And it was so cool, too. The other thing I loved about the Painted Streets project is how we were catching people that don't necessarily turn out for arts events, but they live in the neighborhood, and they were coming by, and they were super excited about what we were doing. So there was one guy that came by, I think every day that we were out there painting, he was just out for his daily walk. And he liked to come by and give us a hard time and tell us we needed to be working harder.
We disrupted his daily walk, but like in a good way.
I love it.
It's a good disruption.
Yep.
Yeah, and it was just such a cool way for folks to get engaged with art and see these art projects happening in their neighborhood and figure out how they could get involved with that type of project. That was just the best.
What are some things that the city is expecting from the Nine Rails Creative District to see in the future that needs to come to fruition that those of us helping and running and participating in Nine Rails Creative District can help with or are helping with?
Yeah, so I'm going to answer from the economic development perspective, I guess. So in our business development division, we focus on certain industry clusters. So we know that we have great strengths in aerospace and manufacturing. We know that we've been very successful with outdoor products, especially since the 2002 Olympics were hosted at Snow Basin and at the ice sheet too. I shouldn't leave that out. So
go curling.
Go curling.
Curling's awesome.
Curling,
That's one of my favorite sports to watch.
But so we're really hoping, just as after the Olympics, the community came together and put a lot of focus on developing outdoor recreation amenities and promoting the incredible access that we have to the outdoors here in Ogden, that helped grow our outdoor products industry. And so I think our hope from the economic development perspective is that the creative district will do the same thing for creative industries. And we define that super broadly. So you could be doing product design out at NV Composites, you could be a video game designer, you could be a sculptor. We want to make sure we're defining that really broadly, and we just hope that the creative district will help grow and support those industries and those occupations here in Ogden and help that be another catalyst for economic growth.
When did the arts become in vogue with the financial departments of the city? Because it's not always the case, right?
It's a good question. No, it's a really good question. So I think it helps in Ogden City. I think it helps that the arts division is part of the community and economic development department. So I think there's already some recognition that the arts are really important to our quality of life as a community and also to our economy. I would say there's been a lot more recognition of the art's importance to economic development probably in the last 10 years or so. There have been a couple articles written about the creative class, and we find that companies across all industries, they're really most interested these days in making sure that they can recruit the right employees to come and work for them. And in the past, we've been able to recruit a lot of companies because their employees value access to the outdoors. But we don't want to stop there, right? Because not everybody likes to ski, not everybody likes to get out and hike.
Which I do not understand this. But
if
that's
you were
probably true, yeah.
Or even if you do enjoy those things, maybe you're also
the crossover is enormous.
Yeah, you're looking for an arts and culture
Right.
scene. You're trying to figure out what you're going to do on Friday or Saturday night. And so making sure we have that vibrant culture here too. And I've been blown away by the art scene here in Ogden. I don't have any kind of background in the arts. My whole exposure to the art scene in Ogden has come through this project. And as somebody coming in totally cold, it's just been amazing to see what already exists here.
And it still interests you. That's good.
Yeah. 4 years in.
4 years
I'm still about it.
So, okay.
Hashtag arts and adventure.
Oh, that's right.
Arts and adventure. Yeah.
I love it. What are you most excited about for Nine Rails? Like, is there a project that's coming up soon that you're thinking about, or what's something personally that you're interested in seeing?
So we do have some big long-term investment heavy projects like making streetscape improvements on 25th Street.
Okay, so what does that mean?
So streetscape improvements would mean that everything between the building on one side of the street and a building on the other side of the street would basically be redesigned. So, for example, on 25th Street right now, that's a very wide street.
We have very wide streets.
Fairly fast-moving vehicle traffic. As a pedestrian, you probably don't have that great of an experience. So we're talking about the area between Washington and Adams in particular is what I'm thinking of. There's no landscaping. There's no park strip. The lighting is mostly the big Cobra lights that help provide light for vehicles. But if you're a pedestrian, they don't necessarily do you that much good. And then we also have, this is all changing now, but when we started the project, we had a lot of vacant properties, vacant buildings, and parking lots. So when we look at doing a streetscape improvement project on 25th Street, we've talked a lot about how we can really improve the pedestrian experience and help make that an enjoyable place to walk. Also, that's part of the preferred route for the bus rapid transit project that's going to connect the intermodal center up to Weber State and the hospital. And so that's going to be a great street to provide transit access on. So the streetscape improvements we've talked about would, one, make a larger area that's not meant for cars. So we'd have wider sidewalks. The sidewalks would include some landscaped areas. They would include places for art to be displayed or for performances to happen. Things like bike racks, places to sit, cool lighting that actually helps you as a pedestrian feel comfortable. And then a little bit reduced amount of space that helps slow the vehicle traffic.
Which is, I think, the key right there.
Yeah. But I should say, so that's not the project I'm most excited about. I think that's going to make a big difference. But I'm super excited about the stuff that we can do pretty immediately at pretty low cost. So projects like the Painted Streets project, they didn't take that long. They took a tremendous amount of volunteer hours, but they weren't real high dollar amount projects.
Right.
So
being a pilot project, we sort of figured that out.
yeah.
Which, how fun is that? Sort of being and we're all able to do it. It's nice to be kind of in the, the central decision-making part of it. But at the same point, 200 volunteers shows you that everyone can be involved with these projects. But knowing full well that, theoretically, 4-way crosswalk section, we can be done in a weekend, and what a difference that would make for, all future weekends. I love the idea of immediacy. The more things that we can do, it's all about the momentum that's going on right now.
And I really want to see what projects the community proposes too. So one of the things we made sure we didn't do in the master plan is we tried not to be too prescriptive about what type of art happens in the creative district. That's going to have to change over time. We really want that to be driven by the people that are living and working here, and not by the city or not by some committee that's sitting there saying, yes, this art piece, no, that art piece. So I'm really excited to see what types of projects are generated by the community. And we're here to try to help match funding sources to those projects if we can. So there may be some things that don't require a funding source. Maybe they just require a volunteer effort. But yeah, can't wait to see what types of projects and events the community comes up with.
What would you like to see, Brandon? You come from an arts background.
Oh, that's a good question. I think I sent this to you in a text. I'm more interested in throwing art parties, like blending a whole bunch of different kinds
we
of.
fully support that. Actually.
Yeah. Blending different
like
modalities together into one event.
For me, it's more banjo. I just need more banjo.
All the banjos, yeah.
Just in my life in general, yeah.
Art parties and banjos.
Yeah.
Okay, we're on it.
Yeah.
I'm pretty easy. Yeah, exactly.
If someone's listening in another town, another city somewhere, and they're like, well, I want an arts district, what's maybe something that you can warn them about? A consideration that maybe, or a stepping stone that you had to go through at the city level, that's something someone listening needs to know before they start on this process?
I would say it really helps if you can get some grant funding. So that made a huge difference in us being able to actually take this on as a project. And then I would say make sure that you have all the different city departments involved, because these things are super cross-cutting. So we had arts planning and business development were all really involved in this project. And then we've also had a lot of coordination with divisions like engineering to make sure we're actually painting the street mural in a way that's not going to cause a traffic safety problem. So I would
Those are
say
the questions that not all the artists necessarily it's going through their head.
For sure, yeah.
That we can't have arrows involved necessarily with some of the pieces and things.
Or slippery paint
certain
or something,
colors,
I don't know.
exactly,
Yeah.
yeah, nothing that looks like a stop sign.
Yeah.
No stop sign.
That was a big no. But yeah, I think
That's a whole other art project where you just paint random signs, yield and stop signs in different
I think
intersections.
probably less support if
Oh,
we
okay,
did more
okay,
of that.
yeah, okay.
But there is something to be said for that, and I think that the more the different groups are involved, particularly when it comes to, say, something like the streetscaping, some of this is work that's going to happen anyway, improvements. But how are the improvements going to be done? Maybe we can make it a little bit more creative and thoughtfully done.
So we've talked about that a lot with the Bus Rapid Transit project or the BRT project. So that project is coming. It's going to require some improvements. So how can we, now that we have this creative district and master plan established, I think we're in a much better position to lobby for, okay, well, let's make these improvements in a way that incorporate the arts.
No, it's true. And I'll bring in another example. For instance, with the new Monarch building, Thane has a certain painting budget, marketing budget, some of these things that he has to work with. And he considered on his side, well, what can he do to take that a step further, bringing in some muralists to do, kind of take care of that. And so I like the idea of bringing in creatives at certain points that haven't been taken into account before.
So are you saying the Nine Rails Creative District has influenced the city in other projects too?
Yeah.
Like
I would say
not
so.
directly, but that now it's become maybe a thought like, oh, well, here's this other part of town that needs an improvement. Does the arts come to mind?
I would say so.
Yeah.
So the redevelopment agency has the Adams Ave Community Reinvestment Area, which is a redevelopment project area, and that overlaps with the Creative District. And so now that we have a plan in place for the Creative District, I think that definitely impacts on future projects that will take place in the Adams Ave CRA.
So see, that's a win right
Yeah.
there. That's huge.
kind of how I see it. And,
Yeah.
and it really does trickle into, I'm on the benches up top, but that doesn't mean that I'm less part of what's going on down here,
Yeah.
I think the other super exciting part is just to see how things are starting to pick up steam, and it feels like all of a sudden there's a certain critical mass that exists, and it's not something that the city is driving or that the city is leading anymore. So the fact that you guys have a Nine Rails Arts podcast is amazing.
Which we were happy that the plan got approved. I think that was that very night. It's like, okay, we get to keep the name. We're going to move forward with this plan. Yeah. But that was the mass. That was that momentum that was going on even outside of the ultimate, universal council approval. This momentum
Things
was
were
already happening, right?
Yeah,
And
so with projects like the Argo House and the Monarch and the Pando Collective that's over on 26th Street, all of these things just kind of started building on each other, and it's super exciting to see that.
And that's ultimately how things get done.
Yeah.
Sarah, thank you so much.
Thank you guys.
I mean, thank you so much for being our friend and supporting what we do. But, I was at the council meeting the other day. You did an incredible job. All the work that you've put into this is like above and beyond. Again, it helped that I didn't know exactly what your job was this whole time. But everything you've done is just simply above and beyond. I can't imagine any job description that has required all of the things that you've done. And so it reflects well that you walked here today as well. The fact that you're part of this, you live in the part of this,
Yeah, which is probably why this has been one of the most fun projects I could have ever asked to work on. There's so many things that come through your door at the city, and when you have a chance to work on something that you can see making a real impact like this, it's just very rewarding. And I want to thank you guys for your involvement with the whole project. And Todd, thank you for coming to load the trailer every night when we were painting the street murals.
It's all the little things.
all the little things that make things happen. So.
And it's just starting now. All right. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Sarah.
Thanks.